Hi, Dr. Ruth Anderson here with Enlightened World Network. It is my honor and pleasure to be here with Teri Angel and Carol Ann Cross for this session on energies of the new world. Carol is going to be our host tonight. She's going to take us on a fabulous journey to learn about the 5 elements. So Carol, we're just going to hand it over to you.
Oh, right. Okay, that's great. Thank you, Ruth, and hi to Teri. It's just I just got so excited when I was doing a bit of research into the 5 elements, because everybody knows about the main 4 elements: fire, water, air, and earth. And then when I was sort of doing a bit more looking about spirit, there's so many different expressions for the spirit part of the element. You know, there's spirit, there's ether, there's space, and then there's another word that they use in yoga, ashana, or a name similar to that. So, you know, I thought that was so interesting that just one element has so many different names and ways of people talking and thinking about it. And, you know, the bottom line is that once we know and understand how the elements work with us, and with the elementals, of course, who we've been doing the series on recently, then, you know, it forms the basis for ways of us learning and knowing. And as we become more aware of them, our lives open up to new blessings and creativity. And it just helps us to learn more about the laws of nature and how we can work with nature. Because we are just blessed to be on this beautiful planet right now. And, you know, so for us to be able to learn to work with nature is just such a wonderful thing. So in each of the elements, they represent a state of matter. So earth, it's just not just soil. Everything that's in nature makes up that soil. Everything that is solid makes up that soil. Water is everything that's liquid. Air is everything that is gas. And fire is really interesting, because if you have a block of ice and you put it near a fire, the ice will melt and it will go into a liquid state. And then as it heats up, it becomes steam. So that becomes a gaseous state. And then when you take the fire away and leave it, then it goes back into being a solid state of ice. And, you know, I think this is so interesting. And then space, or ether, is the mother of all of the other elements, because the experience of space as an emptiness in some cases, that's the basis for higher spiritual experiences. So when we stop and think about how each of these elements affect us, and they're us, they're part of us, because if we look at each of them individually, fire is the element that represents spirit. And our sight is the sense that corresponds to fire. And it's through our spirit that we meet the angels of fire, divine vision, and insight. These are ways we can develop and strengthen our spirit. So the fire element is representative of the will or the soul in many traditions, because when we look at all of these elements, we can step back into the ways of the indigenous people, and how they lived with these elements, and they used them to their best advantage. And now it's up to us to start recognizing that. So the element of water, that represents our soul. And our soul is the realm of our spiritual treasures. And the sense of taste comes into play when we think about our soul. So the soul holds the impulse to taste and to savor. And it takes us into mysterious ways of explaining our life. And let's face it, when we work with our soul, sometimes we just have to leave the logical world at the door. Step into our heart, step into our soul, and leave all kind of logic and prior knowledge behind, because this is our world of discovery. in our soul, and water helps us do this. I don't know about any of you, but to me, if I am somewhere I can see water, whether it's a beach, a lake, a river, I can feel the energy, and I just step into that place, and my soul and my heart and my whole body sings. And that's the effect that water has on me. So the element of air, so our mind corresponds to the element of air. And the sense corresponding to the mind is touch. So we call upon the aspects of touch to get in touch with and link up with the angels. And so to understand our mind and the qualities of inspiration when we take a breath, which we can look at as when we take a breath, we're taking in the breath of God, and we meet the angels of air. So earth, the element of earth represents our physical body. And that's made up of the same minerals and chemicals that are found on the planet. You know, this is how we are made up, and this is how we live on our planet, because we have those same elements and minerals and chemicals. And our sense of smell brings us closer to the angels of earth. So the fifth element, whether you want to call it spirit, ether, or space, that relates to our heart. And our heart is our guide to the highest realms. And all of the elements, their influence is important, but ether or spirit is the fifth element, and that's the one that pervades all others. And we can sometimes call this ki energy or prana. I like to think of it as life force energy, because I'm very, very keen on promoting our beautiful life force energy. And it's also, some people refer to it as God's energy. So when we look at the importance of sound and vibration, that allows us to come into a deeper respect and understanding of ether and of spirit or space, whatever we want to call it. So the five elements are also circular in nature. So water creates a circle when we drop something into it, and it forms a spiral when it drains. And interestingly, depending if you're in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere, if you pull the plug out of a sink, the water drains in a different direction. And when I first travelled overseas, that was one of the things I had to go and have a look for myself. Okay, yes, it does turn differently to different direction to what it does here in Australia. And then fire, it burns in a circle. If you look at a fire, you can see into the fire, and you can see that it's forming a circle. And let's face it, when we're sitting outside and we've lit a fire outside, we're inclined to create a circle around the fire, aren't we? We sit in a circle around the fire. And to me, then that takes me back to when I think about the indigenous Native American Indians, you know, and sitting around the fire and smoking the peace pipe. And I just love, if I'm sitting around a fire, to step myself into that world. So the air sometimes twirls in a circle as well. But we have a saying, and I'm sure you have it up in other parts of the world as well: let the air circulate. So we need the air to circulate so that we can all live and survive and breathe. And then our beautiful Mother Earth, she's a circle. So the earth is a circle. And the ether, spirit, space, whatever we want to call it, encircles all of it. So, you know, it's just amazing how when we stop and we step into this space and think about such a basic thing, we couldn't survive without the elements. And so I just found it so exciting to be doing some research into this. You know, we all know the basics of it. But when we sort of step into this space of wanting to know more, then I think it's really interesting. And, you know, there's another thing that I have known and used for a long while, is that the angels guide us in ways to experience the world. So in our will to act, that's spirit or fire. poise in our feeling, soul or water, in our thinking, mind or air, in our temple, our body or earth, and in our divine connection, heart or ether. So one way of imagining this is, first we are spirit and we agree on a soul, a calling for our spirit. Then we merge with the air and we take our first breath. And so begins our physical presence on Mother Earth. So ether keeps us going by ensuring that the elements vibrate in a certain pattern so that we can be who we are and have a spiritual experience on earth while sharing our own special gift of love from our heart. And so when you think about this and you imagine, the baby growing inside, for the 9 months, and then it's born and it takes its first breath and it comes out into the world, and how amazing is life, and how amazing is our God and our creator and the angels, and how amazing are the elementals and the elements and everything working together. And I find it so beautiful to think about, we can find this inner balance and peace by spending time out in the world and with the nature spirits. We're just so blessed, really, to be here at this time. So before I go on and talk more about what each of the elements represent, it's like, how can we enjoy the elements each and every day? So we can do some breathing exercises, or simply take notice of the air that we're breathing in, because that's a beautiful way when we're going into meditation to become aware of the rhythm of your breath as it's going in and out. And that's just such a beautiful energy that we can build up as we're getting ready to do a meditation. We can light a candle. If you ever lit a candle in a darkened room and sat and just watched the flame, the energy, and then the aura and all of the things that come out from the flame when we're just sitting there and watching that flame. It's we have such simple ways of being able to enjoy the elements. Walk barefoot on the ground. Plant a plant. Dig up the garden. You can sort of get out there and you can work with the gnomes and dig a hole, and I'm sure you're going to see a worm if you've got good soil and things like that. So touch the soil with your hands. It's just so beautiful to be able to put your hands into the ground. Yeah, your nails are going to get dirty, your hand's going to get dirty, but then you can use some water to wash it off. I'm just going to have a sip of water, a sip of coffee. So water, bathing in water. I love going swimming, but I'm always conscious of the water. And so, but I think there's nothing better than just floating on the water. Or you can just go and have a bath, just have a bath. I think that's really good. So we need to listen to what the angels are telling us at this time, because yes, a lot of people are in lockdown, or they've got restrictions on where they can go. But even if you're just, if you're just in your apartment, you can still have a flower in a pot on your balcony or something like that, or even in your house. It's not like we can't be in contact with the elements. Put your hands in the washing up water. You're playing with the bubbles and things like that. You can see the fairies in the bubbles. And I can remember years ago, my granddaughter, when she was a lot smaller than she is now, we were washing the car, a simple act of washing the car. And by the way, I love hosing because it's the energy of the water as I'm holding the hose. And so we had all these bubbles in the bucket. And she's looking really intently into this bucket. And I said, "What is it you're looking at, darling?" And she said, "I'm looking at all the fairies that are in the bubbles." Now, how exciting is that? So simple things we can do that, just take us and can connect us with the elements. And I just think that that is just such an amazing thing. We're not restricted. The only thing that restricts us is this, our mind. When we think, like, oh, I'm stuck here, I can't do anything. You're not. This is where you're stuck. You're not stuck here. So, get out. Even if it's just walking the perimeter of your yard or your house or whatever. So, and then sometimes really simple things like you might be feeling at this time, I know a lot of people are feeling quite overwhelmed and feeling, they're all caught up in themselves. So just take a breath. Take a breath and realize how crucial that breath is. That's the breath of life that you're breathing in. And there is so much energy and love within that air that you've just taken into your lungs. We're not stuck in this place. We're not. Only our mind holds us in this place. And, we can just take, if we go into I know not everybody meditates, but you don't have to meditate. You sit quietly and just listen. Listen to the sounds around you. Yes, you might have the sounds of the city, but then you realize if you concentrate for a little while, you can pick out individual sounds. Oh, that's somebody driving down the road. Oh, I wonder where they're going. Let your mind sort of take over. And, you're not restricted in any way. And, so I just sort of think you can listen to the birds. If you don't have trees with birds, play some music. Play some music. Dance. Dance in a circle. Dance like mad. Lift your energy. We have all of these things that we can do, that we can touch the elements, we can work with the elements without feeling that we're stuck, because we're not. So just change that thinking, because when you think about the life force energy that is all around us and just let yourself go, shut your eyes, use your peripheral vision. You'll be surprised at what you can see and feel and hear, because there is so much love out there for you. Love not only from our beautiful planet, but love from God, from the angels, from the beautiful elementals. And, when we're looking up at the sky, our beautiful friend Gabby had put some photos of clouds on Facebook the other day, and they were the sylphs. And the sylphs are there and they're flying all around. And if we can, even if we can't go out very much, look at the clouds. We can see so much when we look at the clouds. Feel all of the elementals around you. And when you're out digging in the garden, just smile. A smile makes such a big difference, not only to whoever you're smiling at, and you might only be smiling at yourself, but if you do a little sitting quietly and then just imagine a smile on your face, and it lifts your whole energy. And so, then you're breathing in the air, and it's just such a beautiful, beautiful place to be. So, even though, life is different at this moment, and I agree with that, but, this is where we're meant to be. We signed up for this, and so, we might not know what it is that we're here to do, but we're here we're exactly where we're meant to be. So enjoy it. And I can hear somebody saying, how can you enjoy this? Well, you can. It's all a state of mind. So do you want me to tell you some more about each of the elements then?
Let's cut in here for just a minute.
Yes, I thought you might have wanted to cut in for a minute.
Yes. So, Carol, I know that you were on, with us yesterday for an orbs show, exploring orbs with silver. And some of the photos of the orbs, I think, were just really outstanding. And
Mhm.
Teri was the one that had introduced me to Ghost Detect and have come up with some amazing pictures from that. Would you say, Carol, that the orbs are like a combination? It's like the ether, it's the angelic or the spirit coming in through the air.
Yep, yep. And they're using that's a way of them coming through, and it's a way of them showing themselves that a lot of people can easily see, because sometimes people think, oh, I don't actually want to see a spirit, perhaps as a person or an animal. Some people can relate easier to an orb, which is like a ball of light, but that spirit is in that orb and that ball of light. And the orbs are beautiful, and sometimes when you're out and about, and you may be sitting around a fire or something, and the orbs that are all around, there's just so many of them. And I just think that that's a wonderful way of the orbs, a spirit working with air and ether to be able to show themselves to you in another way. Because sometimes, just imagine if you've got a hell of a lot, sorry, a lot of orbs all around, a lot of spirit all around. It might get a bit crowded if you see them all as the person or the animal or whatever it is, that spirit. So sometimes it's easier to be able to visualize an orb. And I think, orbs are just beautiful. And sometimes they can change their colors. They're not always the same colors. And I loved the orbs that were in your house, Ruth. They were lovely. They were really, really special.
I'll show those for a minute. If you don't mind, we'll just take a
No,
little.
that's great. I'm happy for that.
Teri, do you want to, well, first, Carol, do you see orbs just with your eyes?
Yes, I can, but it also depends on the lighting and all of the conditions of the air, etc., around you. I can remember years and years and years ago, I had very, very clear clairvoyant sight, and then one day I couldn't see them anymore. I knew they were there, but I couldn't see them anymore. And I asked my guides why, and they said, because you need to use all of your psychic gifts, Carol. You need to use all of your clairs, not just your clairvoyance. And so then I started to see them in other ways. And so now I can see orbs, but I can describe who a spirit is because I can feel it within me. I have that clear cognizance and the clear sentience, and I can describe a spirit without actually seeing it standing there right in front of me. So, and they said to me also, sometimes it gets very crowded. So, if there's a lot of us there wanting your attention or something, then we wanting you to use your other senses. And so, yes, I'm aware of orbs, and this is it. It's an awareness as well as a clairvoyance. It's an awareness, and it's clairsentience and claircognizance and all of the clairs. So, yeah.
Well, I'm just going to share here for a second. Teri, do you see orbs outside of the camera? Can you just see orbs with your eyes?
Yes, I do. And in fact, I've seen several when I've been on Zoom. I see them moving across the screen.
On Zoom.
That's a really interesting thing to have happen while you're on talking to somebody.
Yeah, it can get a bit distracting, can't it?
So can you see that photo?
Yes, yes.
Sure. So this particular one, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because when you're talking about ether and air, it's these orbs to me are like ether coming and making themselves visible to
Yeah.
us.
Yes.
So anyway, this particular one, I don't know if you can see, but there's all kinds of white light. I don't know how many beings, angels are represented there, but that was just kind of a fascinating.
It's great.
And I didn't see it. I can't see them with my eye. I can feel it. And
Yes, you can feel it.
I'll put my phone up and take a photo, and then I'll see it after. But I thought that one to me feels very high vibrational energy.
Yes.
Some of
Yeah.
them, not quite so much, but this one, yes. Teri, what were you going to say?
Yeah, there's a lot of activity in that one. And I see 3 distinct beings. And this is what I think there's, even though you see separate orbs, like in the upper picture, that to me is one being. That's just showing 3 aspects. So there's a lot of energy there. And sometimes I'll blow the picture up, just expand it out, and you can see faces or different shapes inside the orbs.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing we can look for when we take a picture of them.
Yeah.
And Teri, this is, let me see if I can find it. Oh, this is one of my faves. Look at all these guys.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah.
So these ones to me feel very high vibrational energy as well. It's just a very different thing to look at than the white splotches.
Yeah.
And I know,
Yes.
Teri, you've looked at some of these and seen faces or.
Yeah, I can actually see the bigger one right at the doorway. You can actually see like a person inside that orb.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the last one that I want to share with you, well, I'll show you this one. This one is, when I say the other ones feel like higher vibrational energy, this one does not feel like high vibrational energy to me. It almost takes on like a primal, animalistic kind of feel to it.
You know,
This one is showing how protected you are, because, you know, not that that's necessarily anything negative, but to me, and I see it as an animal.
I do too, Carol. And, you know, I used to think the darker ones that showed up like that were not high vibrating. And then one of them showed up dark, and it was the dark red, and it was an archangel. It was Archangel Uriel that showed himself that way. So, you know, when you feel into the energy, just really do it with an open mind and not immediately say, oh, that doesn't look so good, but just ask, you know, who are you? You know, what can I learn from you? This is what I ask when there are orbs. What can I learn from you being here, from your presence?
Yeah. I also think, sorry, Ruth, I also think this one is the darker because it was wanting your attention. So it was wanting to show up in a different way to what the others were showing up.
It did get my attention, Carol.
Yeah.
Yes, it did. And then the other thing that Silver was saying yesterday is that whenever orbs appear, there's a message for you. I thought that was kind of fascinating. And then the last one that I would like to show you, this is one of my favorites.
Oh, that's amazing.
I love it.
Yes, they're flying through the air.
Flying through the air. That's what I got too.
Well, so, you know, it's interesting because I guess I was thinking that orbs were typically round, but then you see things like this and it's like, no, not so much.
Not so much.
Not too much.
Yeah.
But, you know, they could be also flying with some sylphs. But they're definitely flying, and they're definitely happy, and yeah, it's beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful, that one. I love it.
So, Carol, when you see them with your eye, do you see them in like the round shapes, or how do yours look with your eye compared to some of these that I'm showing you?
Well, they're mostly round, but I have seen ones like the ones you've got up there as well. I think it's like everything else. You know, they're not restricted. It's however they want to let you know they're there. and whatever the message may be for you. And I think, you know, those ones, okay, so what I just picked up about those two there was saying to me that you're to fly free, you're to let yourself go and not restrict yourself in some ways, that to really allow yourself to step into the freedom. Not that, I mean, I know you have to work hard with what you're doing, or you're working to do the enlightened world, but step into a place of ease and allow your soul to fly with all that you are doing at this time. Because sometimes we can get caught up in our thought processes, and our thoughts take over our hearts. And so I feel that it was a message for you to fly free. Mm-hmm. You have everything at hand that you need to do what you're doing. So fly free and enjoy it. Enjoy the ride, because this is an amazing ride that you're on. And just enjoy it. So, and there were two of them, because you were being supported. Everything that you do, you're being so supported from the angelic realm, from God, from the elementals, from everybody. And they're just wanting you to know how supported you are, and to sometimes don't be quite so serious. Allow yourself to fly free. Laugh, enjoy, you know, and yeah, it doesn't, life wasn't meant to be easy, as the saying goes, but we don't have to make it as difficult as we sometimes make it. And this is a message for me as well. I think it's a message for all of us, really. So.
That's sweet. Thank you. So, Carol, if we go back to your earth, water, fire, air, and ether, are there there's like different elementals that fit into each of those categories?
Oh, yes, of course there are. So with the elementals, so the elementals of earth, of course, are the gnomes and the fairies. The fairies sort of flit into both worlds. They're a bit of the air, but the gnomes are the main ones, because the gnomes look after the soil. They look after the planet. And, you know, as we've discussed on another show, the gnomes also, if there's a wounded animal in the bush or whatever, the gnomes help to nurture and to save that animal if it's to be saved. And if it's not, well, then they help it to break down into, what would you call it, fertilizer for, you know, to support the earth. And so the elemental for air, of course, is the sylphs. And the sylphs are just so beautiful. I just love the sylphs. And the dragons are there as well. And so, you know, I just know that my life changed the day I discovered the dragons and the sylphs. And I think that's why I'm so supportive and nurturing of them, and wanting everybody to know about them, because they're just absolutely amazing. And so then we think about fire, and fire, the element for fire is the salamander. And so, you know, the salamanders are all about looking after the planet in ways. We know there are bushfires and things like that, but those things happen because they're meant to happen. And the salamanders are here to support us. And anywhere that you look at a fire, as we were talking about with the candle, you know, the fire is the salamander. Everything to do with fire is the salamander. And the salamanders are just, like all of the elementals, they're just all really, really beautiful. And then if we stop and think about water, well, of course, Ruth, you've had your own experience with the water divas. Right. And there's the undines and the water dragons and all of the beautiful creatures that we can find in the water when we just pause and we stop and we look. And so, and then if we look at spirit or ether, whatever we want to call it, that's all of them, because they're all encompassed in in spirit. They're all encompassed in our beautiful planet. So, you know, each of them are involved in that.
Carol, you said with water, undines.
Yes.
What's an undine?
An undine is just a water spirit. Like you saw the water divas. So it's another spirit. Like it could be a diva. It could be any kind of water spirit. So undines is just a word that covers a whole lot of these things. So we're not restricted in anything. It's like when we think about the gnomes and the fairies and everybody who look after the earth, we're not restricted in how we think about them. So, and let's face it, with the gnomes, you know, there's the pixies and there's all of those that come under a sort of an umbrella name. And so the undines are a name that's been put onto any kind of water spirit.
Okay. Thank you.
That's all right. And the other thing that I only found out yesterday when I was doing a bit more research. I've just loved doing this research, as you can probably tell. I hadn't thought about them having a primal or a life force energy. I hadn't thought about the elements having that. But of course, you know, that just makes common sense, doesn't it? Everything has a life force energy. So the primal or the life force energy of Earth is the power of silence. How fascinating is that? When you think about, you know, we walk out in nature, and other than the sound of nature, it's just silence. And when we want to meditate and we want to do a silent meditation, we ground ourselves and do all of those kinds of things. So, you know, it all sort of flows in together. So, and then when we think about air, the primal life force energy of air is the power of knowing. So, you know, we're drawing in from the air the messages from our angels, from God, from our spirit helpers and everything. And so, you know, I was reading this and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this just makes such sense. And then the element, the primal life force energy of fire is the power of will. So I thought to myself, well, that's really interesting, because fire is such a strong energy. And when we light a fire, we're going to make steam from melting some water and all of that. You know, that takes a bit of willpower, if we want to look at that way. And then, you know, a lot of these we have to stop and think about for a bit longer, but you know, it just gives us something to think about, doesn't it? And then the primal or life force energy of water is the power of daring. So, you know, we can dare ourselves to look at that beautiful ocean and wonder what it'd be like if I went for a swim in that ocean, or if I dived under the water. So, you know, like it's just that little edge of daring. And then with spirit or ether, it's just the power of being. We just are. And so, you know, it's just so interesting to think about all of these things. So yeah, so that's another little part of the elements. And when we learn to sort of just be one with the elements, and to be one with nature, be one with our angels, be one with the elementals. You know, life is what we make of it. And we can make it as good and happy and loving as we want to. It's up to us. You know, we have such power. We have free will. We have choice. And so then it's up to us to make the choices that are the best for us. Because we can only live our life. We are this soul, this spirit. We're having a human experience. But we can't live anybody else's life. We can't live our children's lives. We can be there to support them, and to love them, and to guide them. But we can't live their life for them. So it's up to us to live our life in a way that we feel that we're doing what we're meant to be doing in this lifetime. We're not going to know until we've made our transition at the end of this lifetime whether we've fulfilled what we came back here to do. But that doesn't matter. It'll matter at that time. It doesn't matter now. So if you live your life full of all of the things that you truly believe, you know, be kind, be compassionate, do all of these beautiful, loving things. And that will make you the person that, you know, people will want to know you. People will want to be with you. People will want to listen to you. And you know, I don't have any ego or anything like that. I don't want anybody to follow me because they want to follow me, because that's not where I'm at. But, you know, we're each individual. So it's up to us to live our life the way we would expect someone else to live our life. It's up to us to treat everybody the way we want to be treated, as Buddha and Dalai Lama say. So, you know, it's up to us to live our life from our heart. And we have this amazing team around us. We don't just have the angels and spirit guides and everybody else. We have this beautiful planet. We have the elements that are here for us to enjoy. And, you know, like, you might think, oh, doing the washing up, that's pretty boring job. But if you can just every now and again just be doing the washing up and you just think, how blessed am I to be able to do this washing up? How blessed am I to have had a meal that I've dirtied some plates that I have to wash up? How blessed am I to have bubbles from my dishwashing detergent and water to wash them up in? Stop and think about how blessed we are. Because, you know, when we start to honour ourselves, that's what it's all about.
That's beautiful, Carol. Carol is such a minister in her own way.
They just take over when they're saying things like that. So, you know, I just let it happen. So, you know, but I think that they know how much I believe and I trust and I'm aware, whether I'm aware of being able to see them as orbs or a spirit or to hear their words. That to me is the important thing, and to be supportive of one another. Be kind, be compassionate, especially at this time. You know, don't say things that are negative. That's not going to do anyone any good. And I know that, you know, the world is in a very unusual place, something that our generation hasn't had to live through. I was born a year after the Second World War ended, so I just escaped that part of it. But, you know, it's just amazing that we're here. As I say to my grandchildren, you're living in history. Be aware of what's happening around you. Perhaps make some little notes so that when you have children and grandchildren and people talk about, oh, the pandemic of 2020, you will be able to have your own experiences with it. So it's looking at it from a different point of view and using all your senses and being aware of where the elements fit into it to be able to look at the world from a different place.
So I'm sitting here thinking, I wish that Carol was my grandmother.
Yeah.
The energy that you bring is so comforting and so nurturing. And I'm really excited to share that the next time we get together for Energies of the New World, Carol is going to be bringing to us how to share dragons with your children. So we're going to put Carol in that grandmotherly position. And I'm so excited about that.
you know, I just think that that's the most beautiful compliment you could ever have given me, Ruth. I just think that's beautiful. And you know, I would be more than happy to be that. So, you know, I think that when our children are the ones who are going to make, our children and our grandchildren, who are going to be the ones who make a difference. They're the new energies coming through into this world. And when we stop and think about it, it's no coincidence any of us are here, our children and our grandchildren. And if we look at children now, the things that they have the opportunity to learn about and to do are so different to when I was a little girl and what the opportunities I had. My parents did wonderful, wonderful things for me, but it's such a different world now. You know, when I left school, when I left high school, you know, I could become a hairdresser, a secretary, a nurse, or a shop assistant. That was my 4 choices that I had. Hello, and look at it now. You know, they can do anything, anything at all. And, you know, it's up to us as parents and grandparents to support them in whatever they want to do and to be able to talk to them about the choices that they have. And, you know, but it's not just about their work or anything like that. It's like our grandchildren last time they were here, we started a veggie garden. So they went out and they chose the vegetables they wanted to plant in the veggie garden. And they're coming tomorrow for Father's Day in Australia. And I know the first thing they want to do when they get here is to go out and look and see how their vegetables are going. And so it's as simple as that. If you don't have a yard, you can put a vegetable garden in, get a biggish pot, stick some seedlings in it, stick some seeds in it, and let them watch it grow. I mean, our grandchildren are 14 and 12 now, but they were as excited at that as any little children. And if you can get children to then see how when you nurture that seedling, when you nurture that seed by watering it and making sure there's no weeds around it, and that simple act of nurturing a plant, a seedling, means the world, because it gives them a whole different outlook on life.
I'm just enjoying you.
And I love that analogy, Carol, with the seeds.
Mm.
That's how our children are. Just nurture
Yeah.
them, shine light on them, feed them as much positive as you can. And
Yeah.
I am so happy that your grandkids have you as a grandmother.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I just know that I'm just so blessed to have my grandchildren. So I didn't meet my mother's mum because my grandmother died when my mother was only 5 years old. So I had a step grandmother who I love dearly, but I actually have a photograph of my grandmother sitting here beside my computer, even though I never met her and everything. And I had somebody come to me the other day. I'll show you the picture if you like. I had somebody come the other day and they said, "Is that you, Carol?" And I said, "No, that's not me." Oops, I have to put it in front of me.
Oh, she's beautiful.
Yes.
She is. So, you know, and I know she's with me, and I feel such a strong connection to her. And I always wanted to have children, and I always wanted to be a grandmother and to be able to share. But the other thing we have to learn about being a grandparent is we have to know when to step back, because, you know, their parents are the ones who are the main part of their life because they're with them every day. And so, you know, we have to learn that discernment, that to know when we have to step back and when we can offer advice. And sometimes, you know, you might want to offer some advice and it's maybe not as well received as you might have thought it should have been or something like that. But that's part of the the joy of living this life, because that's about the free will that we have and the choices. So, you know, it's, I know people say to me, oh, you know, you can't change destiny. Well, I disagree with that, because I actually, to me, I wouldn't say I don't believe in destiny, but I believe that, you know, if we make a wrong turn at some time, we're going to have the opportunity to turn back again. But it comes back to free will, and there's free will and choice in this lifetime, and that is so important for us all.
Perfect. Well, and I know, ladies, I'm looking at the clock, how quickly time goes. Carol, is there anything else that you want to make sure we know about the 5 elements before we say goodnight?
Just to be aware of them, you know, because let's face it, we need the air around us to breathe. If we haven't got air, we don't exist. We just don't. If we don't have the soil, the earth, then gravity's not going to hold us here. We need the earth. We need the soil. And the water, we have to have water to drink. You know, you can go without food for a reasonable while, but you need water, because that's what makes our body, I can't think of the quite word, they're giving me about 6 words at the moment. So we need the water to hydrate our body. Thank you. So we need the water to hydrate our body. We need fire. If we didn't have fire, we couldn't cook our food, we couldn't be warm. And I think that's when we think back of the days of the dinosaurs and ancient man, how amazing was it when they discovered how to strike a flint or a rock and create fire, that they could then cook food. When we stop and look back about all of this, it's just amazing. And then we have spirit. Hello, you know, spirit is always with us, whether people believe in it or not. And we need the ether or spirit, whatever we want to call it. And just briefly getting back to air, I can remember a long, long time ago, I was at a church meeting, I think it was, and somebody was giving a talk about spirit. And they were talking about air. They've only just awakened. Thank you. This person was talking about air. And they said, do you realise that we're still breathing the air that the dinosaurs breathed?
Mm.
Because, you know, it's just all circulating, and you stop and think about how long ago was that? How many lifetimes ago was that? And you know, look at how far man has come. Man has come a long way. And yes, I know there's all different kinds of ways of looking at that. But that comes back to how we are, how we treat ourselves, how we treat the people around us, and who we come into contact with. So it's all about, you know, I'm not going to say I'm just this perfect little person, because I'm a human person. I experience emotions. We all experience emotions. But it's about realising it. And it's about realising the only one who can change how we feel is ourselves. And that's part of what's happening at the moment. The universal consciousness is really, really heavy at this time because of everything that's happening and people's thoughts. So we need to get out there, and we need to lift the energy of the universal life force by putting more love and kindness and compassion out there. Because as we lift that energy, the world is going to change. And as individuals, each and every one of us can do that by changing our thoughts from negative to loving. And so, you know, if I see something negative, even on Facebook or something like that, I just unfollow that person, because I don't want their energy anywhere near me. And so it's a personal choice for me. I would love everybody to go out there, walk in nature, raise the universal life force energy by changing your thoughts, because that's all we need to do. Change our thoughts.
Perfect. I appreciate you so much, Carol. I feel like I have gotten to know you better past hour than I have any other week. So thank you so much. And really, I'm so excited for the next time we get together with um, Carol introducing dragons to our children. Can't wait for that.
I'm looking forward to that too. But I look forward to all of these shows, and I just feel so blessed to have had this opportunity to come on and share with everybody. And now I realize, I didn't need to keep my head under the radar for so long. It's quite okay to pop it up. But that was the phase of my life I was in, and this is my new phase of life that I'm in, and I'm loving it. And I thank you for the opportunity, and I thank you, Teri. I'm just blessed to know you both.
Oh, well, we love
you both.
Yeah, love you. Teri, thank you for being here tonight as well.
You're so welcome. And I just wanted to add, we're talking about the elements. I think getting to know all of these elements is so essential for us to have balance in our life.
Yep.
We need all of them,
Yep.
not just one. And when we focus on just one element, we feel like something's missing, and it is, because we need that balance. We need to integrate all of the elements into what we do every day in our life. So Carol, I really appreciate you bringing this information to us and coming on for these types of programs that, you don't find this anywhere else. Here in Enlightened World, we like to just, push the envelope.
That's
Bring
what
out
it's all about.
be the first one out there and just share things of this nature. So I really appreciate you bringing your information and enlightening us up.
Thank you, Teri. I appreciate you for that and reminding us about the balance, because I had balance I had a dot point balance, and I'd gone past it because I got busy talking. So thank you for that. And I just I'm so excited about your new venture, and I wish you well. And it's just such a beautiful step that you're taking for your soul. And, we'll be with you all the way.
I appreciate that. Yes, I'm taking many, many, many people along with me virtually as I do this journey. So I'm glad you're one of them.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
All right, friends. So glad to have you all with us. Gabby and Brenda, all of our other friends that are here with us online, thank you. Thank you for joining us. So much love to each and every one of you. So take good care and God bless. And we'll see you soon here on Enlightened World Network. Take care.
Bye, everybody. Lots of love.